I think the more powerful the procrastination method, the more useful we can convince ourselves it will be.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about that? Because that was one thing we wanted to talk about was procrastinating at a professional level.
Okay, so
We're
procrastinating,
not we're not
like,
amateurs. We're not screwing around here.
in that
How
we are
do
screwing around so much, but like in a way that's focused and meaningful.
exactly.
Well, I guess I can start off, but I'm really interested in hearing your response because you are truly a professional writer because you don't, this is your full-time job. This is my side project still, but, how do I procrastinate? God, I don't, it's limitless. It's limitless how I will procrastinate. It's easier for me to not do stuff because I have two young kids and they're a good excuse. Although I'll let you know a little secret. I don't spend as much time with them as I let people think that I do. I spend a healthy amount of time with them, but I use them as an excuse more than I actually, to spend time with them. Usually if I want to procrastinate, I'll go down some TikTok rabbit holes. That's a really good one.
Mm.
I love to go for walks. So that's, I'm getting back into that now that we've settled in our new house a little bit, and love to go for walks and just listen to podcasts. Got into audiobooks as we've talked about before. So just like listening to things. And then I just like, people always talk about going down like rabbit holes on the internet. I don't go down rabbit holes. I do I go wide on the internet, and I'll just kind of like search things that hit my brain, and I'll just check those out. I'll check this out. I never go too far deep down on like a Google search. I'll just like, here are things I want to explore today. And I'll just kind of go around them. And I also, for me, it's also, I have, is this a ghost? And every week I write I take a substantial amount of notes on a supposedly true ghost story. So a lot of my time wasting is like, is this a ghost story that could pan out for the show? Or is it just like, oh, it's a haunted bridge and whatever. So, I'll go down those rabbit holes a little bit. But when I look back on my day, when you said you look back on your day and you think I got a lot done, I look back on my day and I think, what the fuck have I done today? I have nothing to show for it. Not even a good rabbit hole to share. So I don't know what I do really to procrastinate. I just know that I'm very good at doing it because I don't have more books than I do.
It's because we've practiced and we've definitely gotten very good at it.
You say professional level procrastination.
Professional level. We procrastinate at professional level. A lot of it we've talked about filling the well. We mentioned before, and I want to do a little caveat here because I gave credit to an old creative director I had for the phrase filling the well, and I was listening to I was watching a video on creativity the other day, and actually it was Twain that said it.
Oh.
And this guy just stole it from him, which I think is fitting because this is the only credit I've ever given that creative director, because on all other levels, I thought he was a complete hack, fraud, and a plagiarist.
But he got this one thing so right on his own. It was amazing.
It was so good. But that goes back to that phrase that, I think I mentioned this before, like Austin Kleon's the guy that says that he wrote Steal Like an Artist. And he said 99% of the time, if you think it's original, you just don't know the source.
Yeah.
So anyway, so a lot of it, you mentioned listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, and that's, as much as that feels like, I think from a writing perspective, if I'm not writing, if I'm not getting something done, I feel like I'm wasting my day. But the truth is, you are filling that well. You are learning more things, especially with the ghost story stuff. I mean, you're learning. I mean, you're not just moving towards the completion of a project for your podcast. I mean, storytelling, and you're soaking it up like a sponge when you're listening to all this stuff.
Well, I can also say, on that note too, like I am learning more about American history than I ever did in class by doing research on ghosts. It's really incredible. Like people, make jokes all the time about, the American education system. I'm here to tell you, it's probably my fault. I was not interested in the subject in school. I'm learning such incredible things about American history, and some of those things are informing my stories now, right? Because I'm like you said, I'm soaking up like a sponge. I'm learning so much about actual things that happened, and then some potential ghosts that are tied to that. It's filling the well creatively, but also I know so much more about how America has worked in the past, and since my stories take place in America, it's been really helpful.
Can you think of an instance where you've taken a tidbit you've learned from a ghost story and incorporated it into something else?
I can tell you an instance of a tidbit that I've learned that I'm going to incorporate into a ghost story, which is one of my favorite stories that I researched was on Mad Anthony Wayne. And Mad Anthony Wayne was a general in the American Revolution, and he did a bunch of war stuff. But then the interesting thing is when he died it was in Pennsylvania somewhere, he died, and his son went out to claim his body, but his son brought this small cart, like a horse-drawn, very small cart, and the coffin wouldn't fit on it. And so his son is like, what do I do with this? And so his son then, to solve this problem, got a cauldron and filled it with water. He boiled his father's body for 3 days until all the skin and muscle and tendons and meat had fallen off the bones, and it was just bones. He took the bones after 3 days of boiling them, put them in a bag in the cart because that fit. But then he's driving it back home, which is like, by horse, it was like a 2-day ride. And but the icing on the cake is by the time he got there, he checks the back of the bag of bones, and most of them had fallen out along the way. And so after all this, he's got like 8 bones left to bury. And so, in terms of the ghost story, the ghost.
I think that is the legitimate. That is a really good reason to haunt somebody.
Absolutely. And so Mad Anthony's ghost goes back and forth through that very long stretch of Pennsylvania where his bones are everywhere because his fucking son is like, I don't know, Dad, I guess I'll boil you. And it's so funny. And like, I don't know how I'm going to use it yet, but it's definitely going into a book for sure. Like, and it fits right in the Apocalypticon series. I think like there will be a character who has to transport a body and is like, I don't know, I guess I'll just boil it till it's bones, and then loses the bones. It's exactly the kind of shit we would write, but you would never think of that. Like it's impossible.
I wonder. You mentioned, is that almost? I would say I'm sure, but you've seen Vacation, the National Lampoon's Vacation. I wonder, like, it's almost something like that inspired like tying the ant to the roof, right? Like, I mean, it's like that's some dark humor right there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I was wondering because a lot of the times I think I'm not doing anything too. I'm reading, I'm doing stuff like that. And one of the things I had researched was, I'm fascinated by like the old World's Fair and stuff like that, and retrofuturism, kind of that. Like, I loved the optimism of those days. Like, monorails are going to be everywhere.
We've solved it, everybody.
All we have to do is string cable across the country, and we can just ride the rails. And one of the bits that I read was the Chicago World's Fair. I think the 36. It must have been 36. They called it Midget Village, and they had a 3/4 scale town built in the fair. They had a mayor, they had a barber shop, they had.
Was that the Devil in the White City year?
It would have been the same year. Yeah. No. I think Devil in the White City was early. There was 2 Chicago World's Fair.
There were 2, and Devil in the White City was earlier than the 36, but that sort of thing was definitely there. Maybe not that exactly, but like, yeah, that's crazy.
Oh man, that became a whole scene in one of my Stockwell books. Like, I gotta have a fight scene through the city with short doors, like just like it's people bumping heads. It's horrible, but there's so much you take in. So it is procrastination, but at the same time it is, well, you're learning so much.
One of the things, not from the research from the podcast, but from listening to audiobooks. So my gateway drug into audiobooks was Dungeon Crawler Carl. And Jeff Hayes is so good, and he does all the voices, and there are 1,000 voices. And listening to that actually has inspired me in my next Apocalypticon book to have more voices that are insane, and I describe them very obliquely to make Patrick Lawler, my wonderful narrator of this series, just throw him off completely and really fuck him over and try to get him to do these voices. So I have started work on Apocalypticon 5. I'm about 5,000 words in. I've already done 2 poorly described voices that I'm really excited for him to take a crack at.
I think just messing with our narrators, you know, it's interesting because I didn't do audiobooks until about 5-6 years ago. So I'd written several, not even thinking they'd ever be recorded. Like when we first started as indie authors, you're like, I hope somebody buys this.
Right.
You know, like, I mean,
This will be
you're
an
not
ebook.
expecting.
Yeah.
This goes on the bucket list. I finished this. I can check that off, and I'll go back to whatever. I never thought that, you know, most of the stuff would be audiobooks. So they weren't written with that in mind. And now going back, and when I write stuff, I have to do consider, like, okay, this is going to be read by most likely poor Phil. And he told me no more singing. Don't put any more singing in your books.
So you put in twice as much singing, I assume.
I
right?
had the Junkers season 2. He recently did this. I had him record the Junkers series for me, and he did Junkers season 2. And I think there are 283 named characters in Junkers season 2. Most of them are teddy bears. Most of them are like Care Bear, kind of evil Care Bear versions or whatever. But that one, I feel really bad for what I did. But that was one I wrote before audio, so I didn't but I've got the Bears. I've got basically the Hall of Presidents has gone crazy. So there's a whole feud between Teddy Roosevelt and Taft, and so he's doing all the presidential voices. He's doing all these bears, and he hated me after that one. So I'm trying to be a little,
because they get paid by the hour, not by the voice, right?
By the finished hour too, not how long they struggled with it,
right?
And that was one I do feel a little guilty for that one, but that is fun. But I mean, taking it to a whole other level with like, I have one of my favorite characters that's in the new book I just put out. He's one of the, in the Shattered Alliance series, I have one guy that cloned himself a dozen times, and the clones all want to have their own personalities, and one guy decides he's going to be Russian for some reason. So he's just got this terrible Russian accent, and he's one of my favorite characters.
Well, it's so funny because, like, from narrator's perspective, it's not just that I have to do a Russian accent; it's that I have to do someone not Russian doing a bad Russian accent.
Bad Russian accent. Yes.
And you really got to dial that in, Phil.
Well, even the clones, I'm sorry, man. There's 13 of these got the same guy that you have to make sound somewhat distinct each time.
Oh, it's so good.
But he nailed it. I tell you, I just re-listened to it before I wrote the next book.
He's great, man. He's
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, listening to audiobooks and stuff like that, certainly. One thing I did today is I've cleaned my office. Man, my office is the cleanest room in the house. I had stuff I needed to get done, but I'm like, no, I can't do it if things aren't organized. I've got to get this station set up, and man, my books are all out of sorts. I wanted to organize my books, and I ended up, I was just going to tidy things, and I've rearranged all my bookshelves. Like that's what happened today. I think cleaning the office is probably a common procrastination method.
Yeah, I don't do that a lot, but now that I'm in this new space, I am trying to set this up like from the jump as a good workspace. So I've never been thoughtful about that before. What I'm finding is it's okay right now. I can't show you because it's dark and it's also looks bad and I don't want to show you, but it's okay. It's better. It's more organized now than it has ever been before, but it's not there yet. So eventually it will. So I see myself in my future, I will be procrastinating, I think, by kind of reorganizing things. But also part of that is you're in the space for months, for years, and you learn how your space needs to be set up in order to be productive. And the more that, you've helped me figure out how to actually sell my books, I'm by turns very grateful and also very angry at you, because now it's so much more work than it was before. And it's good work and I love it. But now it's like, okay, so here's my writing space. Here's my book storage space. here's my packing space. Like what,
Mm,
and what, and these are new muscles I don't know how to use yet. Like how's this all going to work? So I'm working it out, but I foresee a bunch of procrastination in my future, which is like small tweaks to my setup that will eventually help and make me more productive and also let me
yeah.
not write for a while.
I think the more powerful the procrastination method, the more useful we can convince ourselves it will be.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
right.
like, oh, I'm not wasting time. This is going to save me time
Well,
later.
this is one of the this ties into one of the things I tell my wife Erin, because I love to nap, and she's not a napper, but I'm a big napper, and so anytime she would ask like, "Are you taking a lot of naps lately?" I will say, "I'm not really napping. What I'm doing is I'm ideating."
Hmm.
And I think about my books and about my work as I'm falling asleep. And then the bonus of that is I get to sleep. So for a little while, but I do like one of my most productive ways to actually kind of draw out my plots is by kind of thinking about it while I'm in bed and drifting off. And so if I do that during the day 3 or 4 times, wow, I'm being really productive by taking so many naps.
3 or 4.
That's aspirational. I don't do that.
I was
I'm
totally
hoping
on your
to.
side at the beginning of the beginning of that anecdote, but by the end, I may be on your wife's side.
I take on average, I would say half a nap a day. So I'm
Okay,
like in
I think that's fair.
every other day, one nap. I would love to be a 3 day napper, a 3 a day napper, but
I like to say that I nap, and I should nap more than I do. When I was doing when I first started doing writing more full time, I was doing writing and freelance copywriting for advertising, and every time I fell asleep, and every time I took a nap, I swear to God, every time my phone would ring and I'd have work to do. Like that was how I found work. And it was just, I almost got to the point where I was afraid to take a nap because the phone would ring and I have an art director buddy I partnered with on this kind of stuff. And he was like, I need work, take a nap. Oh, like, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I'd take a nap, and sure enough, I'd get an email like, oh, I got to get up. Like, I think just the universe doesn't like to see me rested.
well, this is just saying that procrastination is work, and also just suggest that you were destined for a heart attack always, and hopefully you've resolved that.
Well, I don't do it anymore. I don't want to go that way. Yes, yeah, napping, procrastinating, all these forms are letting the idea percolate, and
Yeah.
that is such an important part of getting this done. So
So we are
good.
pro procrastination. Yeah.
We just do it. Yeah, we just do it at a higher level. I think that's
Yeah.
what we wanted to
I think so.
cover.